You're listening to episode 54 of the Fed and Fearless podcast. On today's podcast, I'm speaking with Kate Lyman all about why you should ditch perfectionism and focus on flexibility instead. So stay tuned. Hi, I'm Laura Schoenfeld. I'm a registered dietitian and coach trained in functional medicine with a passion for helping women just like you ditch perfectionism and use food, fitness, and self-care to fuel your bigger God-given purpose. I believe that it's possible to achieve your biggest life-changing goals without the frustration, obsession, or negative self-talk that so many women subject themselves to every day. All you need are the right tools, the right mindset, and the faith to turn your dreams into reality. I'm here to guide you along the way. The truth is that you are so much more than a body, and I'm on a mission to help you change the way you think and act at a core beliefs level so you can transform your physical, mental, and spiritual health from the inside out. Are you ready to become fed and fearless in your pursuit of a healthy, meaningful life? Welcome to the Fed and Fearless podcast. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Fed and Fearless podcast. I'm Laura Schoenfeld. I'm your host as always, and I have a really fun guest for us today. She is someone who resonates a ton with the original theme of the Fed and Fearless podcast. And so I know that we've been talking about a lot of different topics in this podcast, just like me, gets kind of excited about a lot of different things and talking about things like business and fertility and all of these different things that we could potentially be talking about on this show. So I hope that you're enjoying the variety as much as I am enjoying recording all the variety. But today we're really getting back to the roots of the Fed and Fearless podcast and talking about how to fuel yourself appropriately so that you can be fearless in the pursuit of your bigger purpose. So my guest today is someone whose message 100% aligns with that. And she's really going to be talking today about ditching perfectionism and focusing on flexibility instead. So I'm super excited to have with me on the show today, Kate Lyman. Kate is a nutrition coach and the owner of Kate Lyman Nutrition, in addition to being a wife, traveler, and lover of the outdoors. Kate has worked in the fitness industry for almost a decade, starting as a CrossFit trainer to shifting focus to nutrition, working as a nutrition coach that has elevated as a successful nutrition coaching business that has celebrated 5 years recently. Kate and her growing team have helped hundreds of people to change their bodies and eating habits, as well as breaking the myths around dieting and a healthy lifestyle. Kate believes in good workout buddies, kindness, pink sugar cookies, long hikes, a 9 p.m. bedtime, and sharing evidence-based truths. Kate has a bachelor's degree in exercise science, a master's degree in public health, and is a certified health education specialist. Her priority is supporting her clients, but she also manages a team of other qualified coaches and loves to share nutrition education through social media. Kate loves what she does more than anything and feels so incredibly grateful for the knowledge she has and the individuals she is able to work with. And like I said, Kate's philosophy on nutrition aligns super well with the theme of this podcast, Fed and Fearless. So I'm very excited to have her on the show with me today. And without further ado, here is Kate Lyman. All right, everybody. I am so excited to have with us on the show today, Kate Lyman. How are you doing today, Kate?
So great. Happy to be here.
Good. And I was really excited to connect with you because I was looking at your social media and it really resonated with a lot of the personal experience I've had with my own health journey. And I'm sure a lot of the people listening have had a similar health journey. So for those of our audience that are not familiar with you, can you tell us your nutshell version of your story and how your health and nutrition journey has impacted your coaching philosophy?
Yeah, I'm going to skip through all of the schooling and all of those qualification things because I feel like one of the biggest impacts on my coaching has just been my personal experience. And I think that's the same for a lot of people. But, I have the background of this crazy yo-yo dieting background. I was high school when this started, and it just started because that is what we were exposed to as young girls, and especially in sports. And I was in sports all growing up. So I remember like high school trying keto, and I was already vegetarian. So I was doing vegetarian keto, which doesn't even make sense. I mean, anyone who's familiar with either of those knows that doesn't make sense. And then like other low carb diets and like who knows what. I found CrossFit. I started paleo, but I was still a vegetarian. So basically, I've done all the things, and I was always miserable. Imagine that, right? So I have this long history of just this perpetual yo-yo dieting. I started CrossFit and like wanted to actually get better at the sport, and like felt like I really couldn't grow stronger, feel good, have energy, sleep well, all of these things. And eventually I like scrimped and saved, and I'm in college at this point, and I saved up $50 to hire a nutrition coach to do macros for me, to like give me a macro prescription. And it was like a huge, huge deal at the time, but it was obviously this very life-changing experience for me, because it kind of like in my mind shifted my perspective from like, what can I try next, to like, wait, I can eat more. Like, wait, I can feel myself better. And like, I just, everything changed for me from that point, because I was like, I became more aware of what I was eating, of my food choices, of that, the fact that bread was not the devil. And like, I wasn't going to die if I ate a carb, and all of these things. And it was really this novel experience for me. I'm like 20, 21 at the time, I'm not sure. And having gone through this really tough previous years of like kind of hating myself all the time, and like turning my dislike of my body into like these really, really negative behaviors, eating behaviors, kind of flipped to like, how can I fuel my body well? And I know it sounds cliche, but that really was like a huge switch flipped for me. And aesthetically, I was able to make some big body composition changes where I'd felt like, I'm working so hard in the gym. Like, why don't I look like it? You know? And it was eating more that kind of did that, right? After so many years of chronic under eating. But also I was able to like, find this really good peace with a lot of foods that I had written off as bad, overcome this idea of good and bad foods, and having been there in all of the like stereotypical diet culture mumbo jumbo, I feel like that's been really impactful when I work with my clients in the future, because I'm like, I know how you feel. Like, I know where you're coming from, and I know that you're trying so hard, and you feel like you're stuck, and I'm so sorry because it sucks. So I feel like that's translated really well into coaching. Just having empathy for kind of the toll that this diet culture, this like perpetual dieting can take on someone, especially when they've been stuck in it for so long. Because for me, it was high school to college, and that's honestly nothing compared to women who have been dieting since they were, 15 and now they're 50. And so many people have been stuck in that for just so long.
So for you, was things like vegetarian, keto, paleo, all of those, was that always about losing weight, or was there something else that was driving those kind of unusual combinations? I would say keto, paleo, and vegetarian. So you can eat kale and coconut oil or something like that.
And
that's
an almond. Yeah. I actually became vegetarian at a very young age. I was 9. And that was more of an ethical decision at the time. And I was vegetarian for over 11 years. So that was kind of on the side. But then, yeah, like the paleo was like, my mom started CrossFit and she did paleo. So I was like, I guess I do paleo. And then my mom was a perpetual dieter too. I kind of followed what she did starting in high school, and then went to college, and like people talked about keto. So I was like, I guess this is what I do. People talked about paleo, and I guess like, okay, that's what I'll do too. It was just like really stereotypical hopping on the train of whatever was the thing at that time, in an attempt to lose weight, but also thinking that was like the one right thing. I think it was a combination of those two.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely remember feeling that way when I first learned about paleo back in like 2010 or something. So
that sounds right. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I'm sure from personal experience, you could answer this, but also having worked with clients that are dealing with this kind of thing, why do you think so many women get caught up in the pursuit of perfection with their diets, with their fitness, their bodies in general? Where is this perfectionism coming from?
Oh gosh. I think a million different places. I think the idea that we could stick to a diet and like do it forever because it's the right thing sets us up for failure from the get-go, because it's saying like, look, here's this perfect diet that you have to follow. But like, if you mess up, you're not going to be successful. And so I think diets in general kind of set us up with this rhetoric. But then also, if we're looking at social media where we see this person with a quote unquote perfect body and we think think of how hard they try, they must eat perfectly to get that way. We're going to strive for this perfection as well, without recognizing the fact that it's like completely unattainable. That person on the other side of the screen is not perfect, right? Like, we don't know what they're doing. We can't compare in any way, shape, or form. So I think it comes from the messaging we received that like tells us that you need perfection to get to where you're going or to get to the big lofty goals you have. And that's just really not the case.
Mm-hmm. Do you think for a lot of women that the perfection comes from thinking that they're supposed to be doing that? Or is there something that they want that the perfection is like the tool that they're using to get there?
I think it's something they want. I think it's like the thought that perfection is required to get you to your goal. So, if we take a diet, for example, you're like, this is such a typical scenario I see so often is like, I'm eating clean because if I eat clean, I will lose the weight and I will hit my weight goal. So you eat clean and you eat clean Monday through Thursday, and it's hard and you're kind of hungry, but you keep doing it. And then Friday rolls around and you're still eating clean. You're like, great, I'm doing a great job. And then your friends want to go out to dinner on Friday night, which is super normal. And you're like, okay, I'll go, but I won't eat anything. And you're tired from a week of work and working out and training and all the things you're doing. You're hungry because you're not fueling yourself very well. And then you're at a place where the food may not be perfectly clean. And you're like, I'm just going to have one bite of this appetizer. And then you have a bite and you're like, I screwed up, crap. Everything is wrong. I just screwed up. The whole week doesn't matter. I'm no longer perfect. Screw it. Let me just order whatever I want and have a drink and another drink and a dessert. And it kind of rolls into this like binging that maybe lasts the whole weekend. And you're like, I'll just start over Monday, right? It's this idea that perfection is the only option to get us to our goals. And when we don't meet that perfection, nothing matters, right? So I think it's just the idea that that's the only way to get to your goal that is really the hang up.
Mm-hmm. And I know that you talk a lot about the concept of flexible nutrition when it comes to reaching goals. And obviously with goals, there's going to be lots of different like quote unquote goals, right? There could be a body composition goal. There could be a performance goal. There could be a specific health goal that somebody has. So as far as I'm aware, for our purposes, when we talk about goals, we're thinking probably mostly fitness and body composition related. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'd say so.
I mean, obviously, like you said, there's lots of symptoms that can come that get fixed when you're actually feeling your body. But I think for a lot of the women that get into these situations, it's because they're trying to, look fitter or feel fitter, whatever that looks like for them. So can you tell us about what is flexible nutrition and why you teach your clients that concept?
Yeah, so flexible nutrition is the terminology I use for the method of tracking your macros to reach these specific goals. So like we're talking about whether that's changing body composition, like leaning out, or improving performance because you have goals in the gym or in sport, or just like pursuing a healthier lifestyle, which is not a not great goal. It's a fantastic goal, but we usually focus on the other two. So whatever this goal is, it's the practice of tracking your macronutrients to make sure you're eating the right amount to fuel these goals. And really the idea of flexible nutrition is to take out the good and the bad out of this traditional diet mentality so you can see the progress you want towards these goals while still having flexibility to eat the foods you enjoy, because that really leads to long-term sustainability. And to me, it's not the like IIFYM practice of like, good, I'll eat Pop-Tarts and donuts and hit my macros. It's really the idea that we can have flexibility in our food choices so that we are following a practice that is sustainable for us, but we can also have flexibility in our approach and our strategy to how we handle our nutrition. There are times when maybe you have a big goal and a timeline for that goal, and And you need to be a little more strict with your nutrition in order to get there. But there's also times when we have life to enjoy and vacations to be on. And it doesn't mean that like, screw it, my goals are out the window, nothing matters, I'll start over when I get home. We can still implement these tools and strategies to get there or to maintain where we're at without having to just throw away everything because you're a little bit out of your routine.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting that you mentioned the if it fits your macros approach. I'm curious because I know enough about the macros mindset and all that stuff. I don't coach it myself, but it is something I'm familiar with. Is there something specific about the typical if it fits your macros or what is it? IIFYM? It's easier to type it out than to say it. Totally. Is there something about that strategy or the way that people apply that strategy that you feel like is not helpful or messes people up? Because I always think of if it fits your macros, it is hard to say. I always think of that as being something that, again, allows for that flexibility, but maybe you have a different experience with it being much more deep into the macros world.
No, I think there's a lot of alignment between the two, and I'm in no way bashing it because the idea is the same. Like, we can eat different foods that aren't clean or aren't like good, healthy foods that have been, deemed as such and still reach specific goals. I would say my idea of flexible nutrition is really more habits based rather than just the process of tracking. Like, when we are in a situation where we can't track our food, what habits do we lean on to still make sure we're making the best food choices possible? And how does that translate into this time where we're no longer tracking? Because that's not the goal. The goal of tracking your macros is never to do it forever. It's to understand and build awareness of your food choices and of food in general so that you know how to move forward beyond tracking and still be able to work towards whatever specific goals you have. Again, whether they're body composition, performance, or just like maintaining the progress you've made. So I don't think there's anything wrong with the IFYM approach. I think it may just not be as comprehensive.
Gotcha. And I'm sure there's always the application part. So people might not be saying eat donuts for your carbs or whatever, but if somebody wants to, obviously they can kind of eat whatever they want to fit those macros.
Right. And I think it's a really valid way to market it, honestly. Like, you can have donuts to meet your goals. Like, we need that idea that it's not the end all be all if you have a donut,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like it's one of those things where it could be taken to an extreme where people aren't getting any sort of nutrient dense foods and they're doing like protein powders and donuts and, peanut butter for all their fat or something like that. And they're missing out on core nutrients. But I feel like that would get really boring after a while. So I would assume most people are not wanting to do it that way. Yeah. And actually, speaking of boring, so this was something that I saw on your Instagram, and I wanted to ask you about it because I thought it was interesting, especially the current year that we're recording this in. And you were talking about the concept of setting boring goals and how sometimes setting a boring goal was actually better in certain cases than setting like a more lofty or aspirational goal. So can you tell us a little bit more about why a boring goal could actually be better for some people than one that's a little bit more, kind of like a big accomplishment?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I think everything has its place, and I'm like really big on periodization in everything we do. So by boring goals, really what I meant was, as opposed to like PR my marathon or hit this crazy squat goal or lose 50 pounds. We're talking about things like eat at maintenance, like maintain my body composition, fuel my body well, fuel my workouts so they feel good, feel great, have good energy throughout the day, develop some positive habits, things that you wouldn't consider these like big, sexy goals that you can accomplish and take a picture of and put on Instagram or whatever, but things that are really setting a baseline that allow us to later on pivot towards these big goals so much easier because we've laid a foundation for where we know how to fuel ourselves, or we know how to train or how to rest and recover so that when it comes time to work towards a big goal, we feel good, because so often it's like big goal after big goal after big goal. Like, when are we giving our bodies rest? When are we letting our bodies recover for more than a rest day in the gym? Like, big rest. I'm talking big rest. So I think that these boring goals really set a foundation that allows us to later on focus on bigger, more lofty achievements while allowing more flexibility and freedom, both at the time of the boring goal and when you in the future move towards these bigger goals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like my trainer is always asking me every time we have a new training plan that he puts together. He's like, so what are your goals? What do you want to do? Like focus on this time. And pretty sure every time he's asked in the last couple of years, I'm just like, I just want to feel good. And I want to see that I'm making progress with lifts. Like, if we're tracking them, I just want to see that there's some, movement happening. So it's not like there's a specific performance goal or like, oh, I have to get a 300-pound deadlift or something like that. It's more just, that consistency. And like you said, those habits, that's more of the goal for me in this stage of my life than it is to, have some kind of amazing outcome that would be something impressive to other people.
Right. I think that's a perfect example because, I don't think that's boring, but that would be a boring goal compared to like compete in a lifting competition of some sort, right? Like something huge or like PR your lift by some crazy big amount or something like that. I think that, now that like what makes you feel good, how many rest days to take on a hard training week, like what your loading looks like for this progressive overload week by week, or like how you need to fuel well for a big lift day, whatever these metrics are, you understand them. And now you can move forward with this big goal as the day comes, like knowing how to push yourself a little harder without completely wrecking yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And actually, I think that kind of leads into my next question, which is also related to an Instagram post. I was kind of looking at the different posts that you had put out that were the most popular. So some of these were the ones that got the most likes and comments and stuff. So I was like, I could tell that the audience is interested in these things. So on one of your posts recently, you said you should earn the right to work out. So what do you mean when you say that somebody should earn the right to work out as opposed to earning the meal that they're going to have?
I love this question because I think we're so stuck in this idea that we have to earn our food. Like I need to go work out today. I don't feel like it. I'm tired, whatever, but I want to have dessert after dinner tonight, or I want to have that drink with a friend. And this idea of I have to earn my food, I have to work out to earn my food really leads to the same cycle of like restricting and binging that we're talking about, right? Like I worked out hard, now I can eat big. I didn't work out, I can't eat today, and it's not always like that dramatic, but then again, sometimes it is. And sometimes it's like we'll see someone, I'm just saying this, like maybe on Instagram or something, do a big run and then like slam thousands of calories of food. And like from a standpoint, like thinking about energy balance, that doesn't really even make sense, right? Like calories in, calories out. But moreover, like that's not really setting us up for this like very sustainable approach to food. Because what if you're on vacation again and like you're not going to work out hard every day? Do you just not get to eat? It's just not an approach that sets us up to fuel our bodies well, or to really respect like performance and recovery and all our bodies could do for us. So I really like this idea of thinking about earning the right to work out, like asking ourselves, am I fueling well enough to go have a good workout today? This is especially for someone who's training rather than just like, check, I moved today, but like training with purpose. Like, can you even make the most out of your training today if you didn't eat? Probably not, or if you don't eat on a recovery day because you don't go to the gym, is the next day of training going to feel as good as it could? Probably not, right? So we're really not only like messing up our mentality towards how we feel about food and exercise and making this like very transactional relationship between the two, but we're also kind of sabotaging our training, which isn't helpful at all because we're probably not going to feel our best either.
Yeah, I feel like when I first started training with my trainer on a regular basis, a lot of my food choices ended up revolving around wanting to maximize my time at the gym. Because I was like, okay, I'm taking time out of my day. I'm paying a trainer. Like I'm doing all this stuff to do the actual lifting. I want to make sure my food choices are helping me actually use that training time effectively. So I don't train as often right now, and this year in general has been a lot less than usual. But when I was training a lot more regularly, I was really planning my meals so that my workouts were fueled. And so, and again, I don't think you're saying this. We're not saying that every single meal has to be planned to a T, right? For it to be effective.
Right.
But for me, a lot of times it was just like adding a little extra at breakfast or making sure I was eating more protein, that kind of thing, to just ensure that the training day was fully fueled and that I wasn't training on top of like a normal eating day, because the training was probably going to burn like 400 or 500 calories or something like that. So it's definitely, I'm like, oh man, I can't wait to get back into more consistent training. It's been a little bit, I'm sure I'm not the only person who's been derailed, but yeah, I definitely agree with using your workout as a motivator to eat more and to eat the right things to fuel that workout, rather than using what you want to eat as a way to direct how you should work out that day.
Absolutely. And I love that you brought up like with this year, because this year's crazy and we know that. And so like, I think it's especially important to understand the benefit of these boring goals, or the benefit of fueling training well, because we, in a lot of cases, like that's something we can focus on right now. And in a current season where we can't control a lot, we can control how we feel and how we approach our health and our nutrition. And sometimes that looks like taking a step back and focusing on those boring goals, or taking a step back and focusing on our mentality with our fitness and our nutrition. And, you know, it sounds boring, but that crap is really hard.
Yeah.
It's really hard.
Have you seen much of a change in people's, like your clients' goals this year with everything that's gone on? And for the record, we're recording in 2020. So if you're listening in the future, I hope it's better, but
I hope it's better. Yeah, I've seen in a lot of different ways. I've seen people who have, you know, been home more and been like, wow, this is a really good opportunity for me to focus on my nutrition. And for some people that has meant like, I would like to pursue a fat loss phase right now. And maybe previously that wouldn't have been feasible because of scheduling and stress and just life in general. And so that's been pretty cool to see clients who've been able to like, you know, dig into these bigger goals they had because they now have the capacity to really commit to them. And for others, it's been like, this is a really tumultuous, stressful, emotionally heavy time. Let's not put this added stress on our bodies of a cut or a big performance goals. And rather, let's just focus on feeling good and fueling to feel good and being able to enjoy life as much as possible at a time where sometimes it feels like nothing's going well, you know?
Mm-hmm. So it's interesting to me how during this year in general, some people have had more time to do the things that they want to do with their fitness and their health and all of that. And then some people have had so much either less time or less like wanting to put attention on that, which there's no judgment around that. Obviously, everyone's in a different spot, but it's just interesting how I feel like a lot of people have kind of split in either doing more stuff because they have more time or doing less because, you know, that's not a priority at this moment. So I think a lot of people have had that experience where they have to reevaluate their goals and their habits and what's important to them and even why they want to reach certain goals with everything that's happened this year.
Yeah. And I think it's really, really powerful to be able to understand your priorities in a way that allows you to make attainable goals. Because it's when we're kind of out of alignment with the two of those things that you feel like a failure because you've set yourself up for something that just is not achievable at the time.
Mm-hmm, definitely. So with everything that's been going on this year, and, you know, it's one of these things where this year I think has been challenging for everybody in some way, shape, or form. I think everybody has months or years or times in their life where they're facing personal challenges. So even though it's unusual for everyone to be having this craziness going on, you know, there are times in our lives where we do have challenges or you know, seasons where we don't have as much time or we have a lot of mental and emotional stress, that kind of thing. So this year is different, but I think it can apply to any time someone is struggling with challenging circumstances. What are your thoughts about strategies, or like, even if it's a mindset strategy, how can women more healthfully navigate the current world circumstances or any challenging circumstances that they're experiencing when it comes to modifying their physique and fitness and nutrition goals?
Gosh, I think it's so important to like be able to take a really big step back and say, what do I want? Because I think it's really, really easy to look at people, friends, people at the gym, people on Instagram, and base our goals off of what they're doing. Like, so easy to do it. Like, and not even while consciously doing that, like while just saying, all my friends are doing this, so I guess that's what I'll do too, right? So I think it's so important to just take a step back and recognize, like, hey, what do I actually want to do? And then ask yourself, do you have the capacity for that right now? Because the answer could totally be no. You could want something, but the timing, the state of your family, the state of relationships, the state of the world, work, stress, whatever that is, might not permit that right now, So I think it's really important to set yourself up, and I already mentioned this previously, so set yourself up in a way where your goals are actually realistic to you and your lifestyle. Because when there's no alignment between the two, we're going to get frustrated and we're going to feel, sad or depressed or lost or frustrated that we can't get to this goal, but it's not us, it's circumstances. And it's not fully recognizing those circumstances might not allow for a certain goal right now. And like, that could be the case if we're talking right now with getting through months of quarantine and gyms being closed and stuff. Like, is it realistic to have your biggest performance goals right now when you don't have access to all of the same training you used to have? Probably not. Is it valid to have goals that are geared towards being your leanest ever when you're now taking care of kids at home and homeschooling when that was not in the stars previously? Maybe not. And that's okay. You can cut yourself some slack, but I think it's really important to recognize what you have the capacity for, what you have the support for, from family, from friends, from your work, from whatever lifestyle looks like for you, and what you have the environment for as well.
Mm-hmm. On the flip side, I think sometimes, and I've probably had this experience in the last couple months, and I'm like, all right, time to get it together. I think sometimes it's easy to say, well, everything's crazy, so I'm just going to say whatever, it doesn't matter, and I'll just kind of like, not exercise or eat whatever I want, that kind of thing. Because I think a lot of people tend to struggle with that all or nothing mentality. And for me personally, I'm usually more consistent. This year's been a little bit off for obvious reasons, but I know for me personally, I look at my lifestyle and my habits and stuff, and I think there's probably more that I could do, like trying to figure out where that line is and figure out, okay, am I just really just not trying at all right now? Or am I just being, adjusting to the circumstances? So in that gray area where it's kind of like, well, maybe I'm actually really not trying to take care of myself, and that's a problem, and I'm seeing some, negative side effects from that. How can someone find that sweet spot of doing enough that they still feel like they're taking care of themselves within their capacity, but not overdoing it or overstretching when they have other things that are getting in their way or just circumstances that are making it hard?
So I kind of think this is where the idea of being a little more habits focused comes into play. Because if we've built these habits, like, focusing a meal around protein source. I'm not talking about tracking and weighing the protein source, just there's protein there, right? Focusing a meal on a protein source, eating vegetables during the day, staying hydrated, getting some movement in, whether that's going to the gym or a walk with your dog. If we have these habits to lean on, we still are taking care of ourselves at a base level, even if we're not going to the gym and doing dedicated training every day. And I'm right there with you. There were some months during COVID where I was like, I am sad. I am like out of my element. And I actually don't want to go to my driveway and try to do a body weight workout. What else there's something else I can do? Where's my bare minimum here? And so I think those habits are kind of a bare minimum that are set in place that help us kind of navigate this all or nothing mentality and find the balanced the balanced area between the two, that gray area where we're still prioritizing ourselves, but maybe not working towards some big crazy goal or trying to be our absolute fittest or our leanest or anything like that. And there's this is nothing new, and I'm sure many listeners have heard it before, but this flat tire analogy. So I think it was like Jillian Michaels originally or something like that. But and it goes like, okay, so you're driving down the road and you get a flat tire. What do? Do you either step out of the car and like pull over to the side of the road, fix the flat tire and move on? Or do you grab a knife and slash the other 3 tires? Like, the answer is obviously you fix the flat tire. But we kind of approach our nutrition like this sometimes, or our training like this. We're like, wow, I already messed up. Like, I didn't eat well today. Screw it. Like, every other meal, I'm just going to eat trash. Or the rest of the weekend, I'm just going to do whatever, start over Monday mentality. Or I didn't go to the gym this week. It's Monday. So like, maybe I'll start again next week because nothing matters. It's not perfect. So why even try? So I think this idea of leaning back on habits allows for more flexibility to navigate that in between space.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like for me with the training piece, not having access to a gym for a really long time, and then we built some gym equipment set up in our house, and we got a Peloton bike. So now we're like set in the house, and now it's more about just setting aside the time, because it's weird for me. I work from home and now we have the gym at home and like everything's at home. And I used to have like blocks of time to go to the gym or to like go to see my trainer, that kind of thing. And so for me, it's been an adjustment to build it into my work schedule. Cause for me, the work, like, it can fill up as much time as I let it fill up. And I'm sure you understand. So, especially with this year for me, just having all these opportunities and my business really growing in a lot of ways, and letting some of the stuff like exercise kind of like fall out, because for a while it was just, I couldn't do anything, other than, some like banded workouts or TRX thing in my garage. And then now that I have the equipment, I'm trying to get back into the actual like making space for the habit. So for me, I'm not a big cardio person, but even if I can just get 20 minutes on the Peloton in the morning, just to like get awake and, get some movement in, I feel like I've at least checked that box off for the day. And if I want to do more later, like if I want to lift or walk my dog or whatever, I can do more later. But it is hard. It's hard to like start new habits. And even if you're someone who is pretty driven and like good at getting things done and, productive, it's anytime you're trying to start something new, or anytime your routine gets messed up and you're trying to like create a new routine because your old routine isn't working anymore, it can be very difficult to make it stick. So I'm sharing that to let everyone know I'm right there with you. It's frustrating, but I really like the habits focus, because at the end of the day, for me, and I'm sure a lot of people out there feel the same, like I don't really care right now about hitting any PRs with my lifting or being a certain body weight or whatever. Like, it's not really meaningful to me at this moment, but I know that moving is valuable for my health and it makes me like just feel better in general. So committing to just doing it. And sometimes that means I do a tough one. Sometimes that means I do an easy one, but just getting on the bike, or if it's lacing my sneakers up and going on a walk or whatever it is, just doing the activity is enough of a goal right now for me. And I'm sure, a lot of people could really benefit from having that perspective, rather than thinking, oh, if I can't do it perfectly, I might as well not do it at all.
Right. And I think that's like the most perfect example of hitting those minimums. Like, check, did the minimum. Chances are you're going to actually like feel better and want to do more later. But if not, then you did something. And a big conversation I have with a lot of my clients is like this idea that, motivation is actually very fleeting, and we just can't rely on motivation at all, because there's a good chance it's not going to be there some days. And you're going to wake up and you're like, I don't want to work out still in my house because I've been here for days, or, whatever that looks like. So how can we rely on, leaning back on these habits and focusing on like momentum rather than motivation? How can I practice this little baby habit every day so that it is just a thing I do, and I've got momentum to continue to just do that thing, rather than like getting screwed when you wake up and you don't feel like doing something and there's no motivation. You're like, well, I guess I'll do nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. I can definitely tell you there's days I wake up and I try to wake up early enough to get it in so that I was laughing this morning. I was like still sweating when my assistant got here. And I'm like, literally, it takes me longer to stop sweating from the workout than it took me to actually do the workout. And so I have to do it kind of early. And, that initial desire to be like, nah, I'd rather sleep in. I'd rather just chill out or something, and just deciding I'm just going to do it. And even if I do a really easy one, I'm still doing it. That commitment is, sometimes it's hard, but it is something that I think, sometimes it's just saying that I did it makes me feel like it doesn't really matter what the result is. And obviously I would never recommend doing something either harmful or completely ineffective. Like, there's certain styles of training that I think maybe would be better off skipping. But if it's just like, I'm just going to move today and this is what I'm choosing to do with that movement, it's good for creating those lifetime habits as opposed to going in these cycles of like, I'm going to be like a gym rat for a couple months and then I get injured or something happens and I can't go. And then it's just nothing for months. Now I want to take a little bit of a sharp turn here because something else I had noticed, I can't remember if I saw this on your blog or your Instagram, but you were talking about imposter syndrome. And I coach a lot of nutrition and fitness business owners on growing a business, and imposter syndrome is something that comes up all the time. Like, I think everybody's experienced it at some point. I think even, if you're a successful business owner, there's certain times where you're trying to go to another level and it's like, oh my gosh, now I'm having imposter syndrome about the next level. So, what has helped you overcome imposter syndrome in your business?
I feel like this is a really hard question. It's a totally hard question, but I did make a post, and I made a post and I said, basically, like, I have felt that imposter syndrome for a long time, but actually I just realized like recently, like I'm really good at what I do and I don't feel like an imposter anymore. And that feels really good, basically. And just a little backstory, like I have a background with exercise science and public health and nutrition, and like my education and schooling has all been in this realm of nutrition and coaching and health behavior theory and things that give me qualifications to do what I do. But there have still been times where I'm like, but I didn't learn how to do this exactly, like why would someone listen to me? And I don't know. I think the answer is that there was a point where I just took a little step back and looked at the relationship I've created with my clients and the results that we've produced together, as a team, and the wins I've seen from my clients, from my business, from my coaches compared to the struggles that we've all experienced, and saw just an overwhelming positivity there. Like for every one client that I didn't really meld well with, there's 100 clients that did incredible things that I still talk to that have created really sustainable results and gone off to work on their own, understanding their nutrition, which is the entire goal I have in my coaching, And so I think I just stepped back and looked at the good things that were happening and then just actively decided that like I was actually good at what I did and that I could be a knowledgeable coach that helped others, rather than like just constantly scared of like, what am I going to do wrong? Or how is someone taking this thing I'm saying? But that's also just nutrition coaching. If you talk to me about business, I'm like, oh, I don't know. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what I'm doing. And so I feel like I definitely feel still this big overwhelm of imposter syndrome within being a business owner because it feels hard and scary. And I'm so much more comfortable with the coaching. But, maybe I just need to take a step back and look at that too, because I'm doing pretty well. It just feels a little less comfortable. And so I think it's being able to embrace what's going well, despite the discomfort, because chances are the discomfort will always be there.
Yeah. I mean, personal experience, I've been in business for almost 7 years now. And pretty much the only time the discomfort goes away is when I'm starting to get bored. So it's like if things are getting really easy because I've already like mastered something, or it's just kind of like the same for a while, again, it's that, well, now I feel like I want to try something new or I want to take it to the next level. And then as soon as you try to take it to the next level, it's like, oh, there it is again. There's that discomfort.
Yeah, so sounds right.
Yeah. So I've kind of gotten to this place where I actually, I don't want to say I pursue discomfort. But I look at discomfort as just like part of it. Like it's almost like if I'm not feeling discomfort, it's probably because I'm not pushing myself to a level that I could be capable of pushing myself. So I mean, it's funny because I feel like it's similar stuff with like fitness and nutrition and all of that, where you know, to see the results in your physique or in your performance or in your health, you do have to do things that are uncomfortable and challenging and new and sometimes scary. But again, if you weren't willing to do those things, your body wouldn't change, or you would just stay stuck where you are, or maybe things would get worse. So I look at it the same way with business, where it's like, and that doesn't mean staying stuck is bad. It's just, I know personally, I'm a very ambitious person. So I'm always like, what else can I accomplish? What else can I accomplish? And that question of like, you know, I mean, the imposter syndrome, I always feel like is questioning yourself if you're capable of something, or if you're really an expert, or if you can really help people. And it definitely comes up whenever you're trying to go to another level in your business and your life in some way. It's just always kind of like, oh, I haven't been there before. Like, can I really do this? And I personally find it really valuable for coaching other people, always stretching yourself, because then you can always have empathy for where they're at, even if they're in a different place, or even if they're not doing what you're doing when it comes to the challenges that you're taking on.
Totally agree. I agree with all of that. I think probably the most change comes from those areas of discomfort in all aspects, what you're talking about in business and coaching and in your personal fitness and your health and relationships even.
Mm-hmm. Well, and this is a perfect combination of conversation for the name of the podcast, Fed and Fearless, because the Fed piece is fueling yourself physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, like getting all the good nutrition and feeding yourself what you need. And then the fearless part is taking on challenges and not letting fear get in the way of your goals and your dreams and your purpose. So I love that we've talked about fueling and feeding, and we've also talked about being fearless when it comes to not only trying new things in health, but also if you're a business owner, just taking on new business challenges and just deciding to not hold yourself back anymore, which is awesome.
Covered it all, really.
Yeah, it's great. So I know that you have some free resources on your website that people may be interested in. So can you tell the audience a little bit about what they can check out? We'll put the link in the show notes if people want to go look at what Kate has.
Yeah, so mostly I kind of hang out over on Instagram. So if you'd love to hang out over there, it's at KL Nutrition. And really that's a space where I try to just put as much nutrition education as possible in all areas, really. And kind of a lot of what we talked about has been conversations I've had over there. And I really love getting questions. So if you have questions, just drop it in my DMs and shoot them over to me, because I really love to talk all things nutrition. And then on my website, it's katelymannutrition.com. If you head to the resources page, I have several free resources, including a full version of a meal prep cookbook. I have some at-home workouts if you're still stuck at home and not missing the gym. A few other cookbooks. I think there's a restaurant guide, a guide to eating out, and also some work on kind of transitioning from this idea of tracking your macros to eating more intentionally, which is just kind of this gray area between being fully intuitive eating and the place where you're in a little more control of your nutrition. So a lot of good stuff over there.
Awesome. And is anywhere else that people can connect with you? So you said Instagram, there's katelymannutrition.com, where there's the resources tab. Anything else that you want to share?
I think that's it for now. You can read all about my nutrition coaching at the website, which is katelymannutrition.com. I offer one-on-one, very individualized nutrition coaching for anyone working towards any of those goals we talked about earlier. And I feel like my clients come from all backgrounds and working towards all sorts of goals. And I absolutely love what I do with them.
Awesome. And then I like to squeeze in one final question, if I have time, for people. And that question is, what do you believe makes a person more than a body?
I think we're so much more than a body. I think our bodies are really just the most beautiful, wonderful vehicle for all of the amazing things we are capable of, in all sense of the words, like in what we can do physically, but also emotional relationships and spiritual experiences. So I think our bodies are so important, but really they're a vehicle for greater purpose rather than just being this thing that we detest or try to change or are hard on. Really, we should love them for all they do for us because they provide really awesome opportunities.
Awesome. I love it. It fits right in. If you listen to the the intro of the podcast, we talked just about that. So anyway, Kate, it was so awesome to chat with you today. And for everyone listening, if you want to connect with Kate, we will link to her Instagram, her website, and where you can get in touch with her on the website, which is at lauraschoenfeldrd.com. Just hit the podcast tab and go check out the most recent episode. Thanks again, Kate. It was really great chatting with you, and I loved getting your perspective on flexible nutrition and ditching perfectionism.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a blast.
All right. Well, we'll see you all here next week on the Fed and Fearless podcast. Take care, everyone. Hey, everyone. Laura Schoenfeld here again. As you know, I absolutely love working with women from all walks of life to help them create a purpose-filled life that they love. And over the past 2 years, I've expanded my mission to help nutrition business owners drop the hustle and come into alignment with their ideal business goals so they can work from a sense of ease and abundance and grow their income and their impact with joy. Unlike other business coaches, I have experience in the integrative and functional medicine, health, and wellness industry. And I've heavily invested in my own online business training and mentorship to get to a place where I'm now bringing in multiple six figures of revenue on an annual basis. Would you believe that I've invested over $130,000 in my own business development and mentorship over the past 7+ years? And honestly, that's just the financial cost of growing my business. It's taken me hours and hours of testing, learning, experimenting, and lots of failing to get to the place where I am today. After all this, I can tell you one thing with absolute certainty. There's no way I would be where I am today if I had not been willing to invest in my growth and to find the incredible mentors who have helped me accelerate my business faster than I ever imagined. The truth is that running an online business can be incredibly isolating. And if you don't have the right strategy or systems in place, it can take up nearly every waking minute of your free time, which is a recipe for a major health disaster and some serious business burnout. To grow your business to six figures and beyond without destroying your physical and mental health, you need support from both a mentor and a community of people who know what it's like to run a nutrition business online, who can help you succeed faster and easier than you'd be able to on your own. And that's why I'm so excited to offer a space for you to experience joyful and profitable business growth while being surrounded and supported by other driven nutritionists on the same thrilling journey of entrepreneurship. This opportunity is my annual mastermind. In the mastermind, you'll create relationships that will last a lifetime and achieve results in your business that you never would have imagined for yourself. If you want to learn more about this mastermind opportunity, go to lauraschoenfeld.com/mastermind. On that page, you'll find everything you need to know about what the mastermind includes and how to apply for your spot. I'd love to connect with you further about the business that you're growing and how the mastermind can help you support your goals. So go to lauraschoenfeld.com/mastermind to send in your application, and I look forward to chatting with you soon.